Dragon Emperor Sun Chapter 671-680. No, I can only absorb the spiritual energy of all things, not the spiritual energy of others. Wu Meyer shook her head. David looked surprised, then looked at Long Wu. Uncle Long, can't you? Long Wu also shook his head. This time, David was stunned, and said somewhat incredulously, in addition to being able to absorb spiritual energy, whether it is yin energy, cold energy, or even poisonous energy, it can be absorbed, refined, and used for my own use. What? You don't mean you can refine everything? Wu Meier suddenly screamed. However, Long Wu had a calm expression on his face. David, this is your uniqueness, because only you can practice this condensed mind technique. You must not let this set of mind techniques fail. After Long Wu finished speaking, he turned around and left. Wu Meyer wanted to continue to ask David something, but seeing Long Wu leaving, she hurriedly chased after him. David looked at the cleansing marrow pill in his hand, thinking about what Long Wu said. He wanted to know who he really was. Why was he the only one who could practice the concentration secret art? Looking at the bright moon outside, the day of July 15th is getting closer and closer. David has never been so eager for a day. No matter if that day is an opportunity or a danger, David will never turn back, because he wants to know the truth too much. After getting dressed, David walked outside the villa and looked at the neon lights of Horrendal at the foot of the mountain. Although it was late at night, the traffic on the street was still flowing, but David knew that sooner or later he would be farther and farther away from the bustling city. But when David was standing on the top of the mountain and looking at the bustling city below the mountain, two figures were moving towards David quickly, and when he was still more than 100 meters away from David, David had already noticed it. But he mistakenly thought it was Long Wu who brought Wu Meier back. After all, who came to the top of the mountain in the middle of the night? But it wasn't until the two figures were only a dozen meters away from David that David felt something different, because the aura on those two people was not that of Long Wu and Wu Meier at all. You can smell the strong Chinese medicine smell on both of them. David frowned, and hurriedly turned around to look at the two of them, and found that the two came, one old and one young. The old one was in his 60s or 70s with a grey beard, while the young one was only a little older than David. The two of them are all dressed in grey cloth robes, and there is a pattern of a censer embroidered on the necklines of their clothes. Who are you? Why did you come here in the middle of the night? David looked at the two people vigilantly. He could be sure that there was absolutely nothing good for the two people who came to his villa in the middle of the night. The two of them ignored David, but looked directly at the Zisui Dan in David's hand. Elder, your analysis is correct. It really is in this direction. Look at the medicine pill in that kid's hand, it's definitely not an ordinary product. The young man said to the old man, with a bit of greed in his eyes. The old man nodded, and then he took his eyes off the pill and put it on David. Young man, are you an alchemist? Did you refine the pill in your hand? David looked at the two people. It turned out that the two people came to wash the marrow pill, and his heart was suddenly unhappy. This pill was prepared for Sonia. Isn't it? What does it have to do with you? Who are you? Why did you break into me in the middle of the night? David's tone was cold as he questioned the old man. Boy, you dare to follow the great elder like this, are you tired of living? Hearing David's tone, the young man immediately became angry, and he wanted to do something to David with just a quick walk. It's just that the young man was about to start, but was stopped by the old man. Young man, don't misunderstand, we belong to Yaishan Valley, and we didn't come here with any malicious intentions. We just felt the aura of the spirit pill unintentionally, so we came here to check. The old man had a kind expression on his face, expressing that he had no malice. Yao Shengu. David had never heard of it before, so he frowned. Then what is your relationship with Yao Ongfu? David only knew that there was a Medicine King's mansion, which was a department set up by the Bai family in Jiangbei to purchase medicinal materials and refine medicine pills. Now the Medicine King Mansion is still collecting medicinal materials for David and sending them to him from time to time. Dragon Palace. The old man was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at the young man beside him. Obviously, the old man didn't know what David was talking about. However, Yaoangfu is also famous in Jiangnan and Jiangbei provinces. Many people in the martial arts world will go to seek medicine, but this old man does not know Yaoangfu, so he is obviously not a local. When the young man saw the old man looking at him, he hurriedly explained, "Elder, this medicine palace is just a pharmacy at best, and he also practices low-level medicinal pills by himself. It has some popularity in Jiangnan and Jiangbei, but it is only used by some people in the martial arts world. It's just touted by people, it's supported by the Bai family in Kyoto." The old man suddenly realized when he heard the young man's explanation, looked at David and said, "Our Yaoshengu follows the Yaoangfu you mentioned, and it has nothing to do with it. Boy, that Yaoang Mansion is nothing more than a loud name. How can it be compared with our Yaoshan Valley? I only need a phone call, and I can ask the Bai Xiaoshan from the Bai family to withdraw the Yaoang Mansion." The young man said with disdain. "Yu Dong, I took you out of the mountain to let you learn more. How can you be so arrogant?" The old man's face turned cold, and he reprimanded the young man named Yu Dong. When the young man saw this, he was too frightened to speak out. Listening to the young man's words, David couldn't help but become interested in Yaoshengu. What kind of strength does this Yaoshengu have, so that the Bai family can withdraw the Yaoangfu with just one phone call? You must know that the Bai family is considered a prestigious family in Kyoto, so how can anyone be instructed? It doesn't matter if you follow that Yaoangfu or not, this is my private place, please leave, I'm going to sleep. David issued an expulsion order, and did not want to be entangled with two people. No matter what the strength of this Yaoshengu, David did not intend to entertain these two people today. "Young man, we came all the way up to see the medicine pill in your hand, can you let me see it?" The old man asked David sincerely. David glanced at the Zishuaidan in his hand, and then put it directly into his pocket. "No, you should leave immediately, you are not welcome here." David didn't know these two people, and he didn't know any Yaoshan Valley, so how could he easily hand over the Zishuaidan into the hands of strangers? "Boy, our first elder said so, but you dare to refuse, you are courting death." Saying that, the young man named Yu Dong burst out with momentum, and that terrifying momentum swept towards David with endless waves. This was to scare David, but the old man did not stop the young man this time. David's face turned cold. "Do you want to do it? I can accompany you." David's body trembled slightly, and a terrifying murderous aura came over the sky and collided directly with the imposing manner of the young man. Originally silent and peaceful, the top of the mountain, under the collision of two breaths, actually blew gusts of wind. "I didn't expect you to have such strength." Under the collision of breath, the young man could not help but frown slightly. And David was also a little surprised, because the young man in front of him looked young, but his strength was obviously much higher than that of Bai Zhantang. "Your strength is not bad, but you're not worthy of me." David smiled coldly. "Really? Then try." The young man suddenly jumped high, and then the endless palm wind moved towards the top of David's head. Court death. David's eyes narrowed slightly, and murderous aura erupted from his body. They just met by chance, they didn't know each other at all, and they didn't have any grudges, but David didn't expect this young man to actually kill. Not far away, the old man watched quietly, with no expression on his face, and he didn't intend to stop it at all. Seeing that the young man's palm was about to slap on top of David's head, David shouted angrily, and smashed his fist into the sky, and the terrifying spiritual power spurted out, directly knocking the young man into the air. Ding ding ding! After taking a few steps backwards, the young man's face was extremely pale, his internal organs were churning, and a mouthful of blood was firmly pressed in his throat. "Now it's my turn." David gritted his teeth and punched the young man fiercely. The fist wind whistled, and a deep ravine was swept out of the ground. The young man was shocked when he saw this, and with a right hand, a bronze sword appeared in the young man's hand. The bronze sword began to fly in the hands of the young man, drawing sword flowers one after another in the air. These sword flowers hit the fist wind, making the sound of steel collision, and the fire was everywhere. Stab! There was a tearing sound, and the young man quickly retreated, only to see a half-meter-long wound on the young man's chest. His clothes were cut, and blood was flowing out. Looking at the wound on his chest, the young man's eyes turned red, and a bloodthirsty breath burst out from his body. "I'm going to kill you!" The young man roared in his throat, and the bronze sword in his hand began to gasp with scarlet aura, and a terrifying and bloody murderous aura rushed towards David overwhelmingly. "Follow me like a shadow!" The figure of the young man instantly became ethereal, and many figures appeared suddenly in front of David. The bronze sword also seemed to be transformed into countless swords, all of which were unsheathed and stabbed towards David. David frowned slightly as he looked at the countless phantoms around him. But just as David frowned, countless sword chi had already attacked. When David saw this, he hurriedly ran the concentrating heart art to let the spiritual power protect his whole body, but unfortunately it was still a step too late, and the sword chi had already hit David. Ding ding dong! After a sound, the clothes on David's body have become tattered, barely able to cover the sensitive parts. However, David's body didn't have any wounds at all, and his bronze-colored skin still had a faint luster under the moonlight. This. Holding the bronze sword, the young man was stunned. Even the old man not far away had his eyes wide open with a look of shock on his face. David was stunned, looking at his unscathed body. David didn't expect his body to be so strong. You must know that he didn't have time to use his spiritual power to protect his body just now. This is simply using a strong body to resist countless sword chi. I said, you're not worthy to do it with me. The corner of David's mouth raised, and he punched the stupid young man with a punch. The young man seemed to have forgotten the danger at the moment, and was still standing still. At this moment, he couldn't understand why he couldn't even hurt David's fur with his hard blow. Seeing that David's punch was about to hit the young man, the old man not far away moved. Okay, there is no injustice or enmity, why fight to the death? As soon as the old man waved his hand, David only felt a surging force coming, which directly knocked David's body into the air. And the old man put a hand on the shoulder of the young man. "You Dong, now you should reflect on it. I told you not to let you be so arrogant, but you didn't listen. Did you hit a wall today?" Yu Dong blushed and lowered his head in embarrassment. After David retreated more than 10 meters in a row, he stabilized his figure, then narrowed his eyes and looked at the old man in front of him. He knew that he was not the old man's opponent at all. After all, David couldn't bear the easy wave of his hand. "Are you two going to go together?" Although David knew he was invincible, he did not flinch. "Young man, you misunderstood. How could I bully the small and the strong to bully the weak? Isn't this ruining the reputation of our Medicine God Valley?" The old man hurriedly explained, "I am the elder Su Chongsheng of Medicine God Valley, this is Yu Dong, our disciple in the valley. We both came here unintentionally, not to snatch the medicine pill in your hand. I hope you don't misunderstand. I don't know your name." Seeing Su Chongsheng being sincere, David said, "My name is David Chen, although I also know about alchemy, but I didn't make this medicine." David didn't lie either. After all, with his strength, he still couldn't make a medicinal pill like washing marrow pill. "Oh, I'm still wondering, with your current age, how could you possibly refine the earth-level pills, so you didn't refine them?" Su Chongsheng nodded his head suddenly, but he was stunned soon after, and then looked at David in disbelief. "You? What do you say your name is?" My name is David Chen. David looked surprised, not understanding why Su Chongsheng cared so much about his name. David? Is that David who will fight with Qin Xiaolin tomorrow? Yu Dong on the side also asked in surprise. David nodded, yes, it's me. Ha ha ha, it really is a hero. I didn't expect this David to be so young. I am dissatisfied with you, saying that the two of us came to Horrendal this time to witness this duel. I also wonder if this dare to accept it. Who is David who Qin Xiaolin challenged? Su Chongsheng laughed and looked at David with some admiration. Yu Dong on the side snorted coldly, Qin Xiaolin has now reached the realm of Wuzong. With your little ability, I am afraid that you will be shot to death with a slap, and you dare to accept the challenge, you are really ignorant and fearless. Yu Dong had just lost to David, and he was still a little unconvinced. How do you know that I only have this ability? To deal with you, I only used 1/3 of my strength. David looked at Yu Dong like that, and the corner of his mouth raised. Yu Dong was instantly furious, don't be rude, I'll see how you die tomorrow. How did I die? You won't have to worry about it, now this is my place, please leave. David said with a cold face. Boy, how about we make a deal? Su Chongsheng ignored David's order to evict guests, but still asked with a smile. What deal? David looked at Su Chongsheng and asked. I save your life, you give me a pill. Su Chongsheng said. It seemed that Su Chongsheng was still thinking about the Zisui Dan in David's hands. You saved my life. David was at a loss, not understanding why Su Chongsheng said that. Tomorrow you follow Qin Xiaolin's duel, you will definitely lose, you kill his son, do you think he will let you go in the ring? But I can save you, as long as I take action, I can beat that Qin Xiaolin in minutes. Run away, didn't this save your life? Su Chongsheng explained. When David heard this, he sneered, are you so sure that I will definitely lose? I'm sure, you will definitely lose, then Qin Xiaolin is Wuzong, although he has just stepped into Wuzong, his strength is not stable, but it is enough to deal with you. I think you are not only the strength of the 5th grade Grand Master, how can you beat Wuzong, although at your age, to reach this level is considered a genius, but the gap in strength cannot be surpassed. You still have a bright future. You can consider what I said. Su Chongsheng was lobbying David, and he hoped that David would agree. After all, an Earth-level medicinal pill was not common even in their Medicine God Valley. The most important thing is that he wants to know who the person who made this Earth-level pill is, what is the relationship with David, and why he gave such a precious pill to David. That may disappoint you. I can die in the ring, and I don't want anyone to help. If there is nothing else, you can leave. Although David doesn't know his current strength in the Anidia period and which realm he can reach as a martial artist, he will never be the only one with the strength of the 5th rank Grand Master, because he can now easily kill 2 martial artists below the 5th rank of the Great Grand Master. Su Chongsheng looked at David, and sighed after a while, you can think about what I said, even if you are on the top of the ring, you can find me, I'm just below the ring, I just don't want a genius, just fell like this. After Su Chongsheng finished speaking, he turned around and left, while Yu Dong glanced at David, humph, you are extremely arrogant, you will beg us tomorrow. After Su Chongsheng and the others left, David turned around and went back to the room. He didn't take Su Changshen's words to heart. Even if he really lost to Qin Xiaolin, it would not be Su Changshen's turn to save him, because David knew that Longwu would not be able to save him. Just watch from below the ring, he will come to the rescue. The next morning, Horrendal, a small third-tier city, has ushered in his bright moment at this moment. Countless luxury cars have gathered here, and even helicopters are hovering in the sky. These are the people from the martial arts world who came to see the duel between Qin Xiaolin and David. From these luxury cars and helicopters, it can be seen that there are many rich people in the martial arts world. After all, even in the martial arts world, if you want to advance in strength, you need substantial financial support. In a stadium in Horindal, an arena was built early, and outside the stadium, Chifeng and Lin Tianhu led people to surround the entire stadium. Except for people in the martial arts world, ordinary people could not enter. After all, the two masters duel, even if they are separated by 100 meters, ordinary people can't bear the aftermath of the attack, only masters above the Grand Master can enter. Wu Liuyi also rushed over from Jiangbei provincial capital to help Chifeng maintain the order of the scene, and Sun Simiao from Yaoangfu. Now these people have an intersection with David, so for such an important matter, they of course it's coming. At this moment, outside David's Pinerist villa, Zhao Waoqi, Gu Wenshan and everyone from the Bai family were waiting outside. Because David was still sleeping and hadn't woken up, no one dared to disturb him. Mr. Chen really knows what to do, he can still sleep soundly on such an important matter. Bai Ziashan couldn't help sighing that David was still sleeping. Grandpa, then Qin Xiaolin is already in the realm of Wuzong, Mr. Chen, he. Bai Zhantang asked in a low voice. Although he knew that David was a cultivator, Qin Xiaolin's strength was too strong, and David had a short training time after all, so Bai Zhantang was a little worried. Don't worry, I have confidence in Mr. Chen. Bai Ziashan said calmly. However, the others were not as calm as Bai Ziashan, especially Gu Wenshan who followed Reuben and the others. Although they knew that David was very powerful, they didn't know David's true identity, so they all looked worried. Dad, what are you doing here? At this time, Sonia followed Gu Linger over and saw that everyone was waiting outside the villa and could not enter, so Sonia asked. David is still sleeping, everyone is afraid to disturb him. Reuben explained. This David, how can he have such a big heart, such a big thing, and he still wants to sleep? As Sonia said, she was about to walk into the villa to wake David up. Miss Su, Gu Wenshan hurriedly stopped Sonia. Miss Su, it is because of such an important matter that Mr. Chen asked him to sleep more today. It is always good to recuperate. Sonia heard the same reason, so she retreated. At this moment, David yawned and walked out of the villa. When he saw that everyone was waiting for him outside the villa, he was stunned. With so many people outside, he slept so deadly that he didn't notice. What are you doing here so early? Didn't it start at noon? David asked in surprise. Mr. Chen, there are already a lot of people in the stadium. I think it's better to get familiar with the venue first. At this time, Bai Ziashan stood up and said. Okay, I'll take a shower, you can just sit down. David nodded, and after washing up, everyone headed towards the stadium in a mighty manner. When David arrived, he was shocked when he saw the crowded crowd. He didn't expect so many people to come, and some even traveled thousands of miles to watch the duel between David and Qin Xiaolin. At this moment, in a lounge of the stadium, Qin Xiaolin was sitting on a reclining chair with his eyes slightly closed. Behind Qin Xiaolin, Qin Xiaotian led a group of Qin family members. Brother, don't be merciful. You tortured David to death in the arena. You don't know how miserable Xiao Feng and Xiao Gang died. Qin Xiaotian said, and squeezed out a few tears. Are you teaching me how to do it? Qin Xiaolin slightly closed his eyes, did not open them, and said lightly. When Qin Xiaotian heard this, he shook his head in fright. Brother, that's not what I meant. Now that Qin Xiaolin has entered the realm of Wuzong after leaving the customs, Qin Xiaotian is even more afraid of him. Is there any news from your second brother? Does the ancestor still like the gift we sent this time? Qin Xiaolin asked. Second brother has the news, saying that the ancestor is very happy. Now that the second brother has entered the ancestral hall, our Qin family will finally have an immortal. When the time comes, let the second brother teach us the art of immortality, and we can marry 8 wives or giving birth to a bunch of sons. I see the entire capital, who would dare to oppose my Qin family? Qin Xiaotian said excitedly. When Qin Xiaolin heard this, he suddenly opened his eyes and turned his head to stare at Qin Xiaotian, childish. Qin Xiaotian shuddered and was too frightened to speak. At this moment, David led everyone into the lounge, because it wasn't time yet, so he had to rest in the lounge. When Qin Xiaotian saw David come in, he looked at David angrily. And that Qin Xiaolin glanced at it, and when he saw Bai Xiaoshan and Zhao Wuji following David, he sneered. The patriarch of the dignified Bai family, the patriarch of the Kyoto Protectorate Pavilion, has also become someone else's dog. Is the owner you're looking for a little too young? Qin Xiaolin's ridicule made Bai Xiaoshan and Zhao Wuji instantly angry, and the two of them could not wait to rush up to fight with Qin Xiaolin. But they still controlled it. After all, Qin Xiaolin's strength has reached Wuzong now. Even if the two of them join forces, they are not Qin Xiaolin's opponents. The gap of a big realm cannot be made up by quantity. Seeing that Bai Xiaoshan and Zhao Wuji were both silent, Qin Xiaolin was even more proud, and Qin Xiaotian, who immediately said with a frenzied expression, "You are now kowtowing in front of my elder brother and surrender to our Qin family, maybe my elder brother can forgive you." Ignorance, wait a while, this kid David is dead, I see who you pawns are going to look for as a backer. Bai Xiaoshan and Zhao Wuji's faces were ugly, and they stared at Qin Xiaotian fiercely. Although they were upset, they didn't say anything. Now they only hope that David can win that Qin Xiaolin. As long as David wins, then the Qin family will have no threat, and the Qin family's position in the capital will also plummet. If your Qin family can only fight with words, I don't think this fight is necessary at all, because I don't like to follow people who can only f.art. David glanced coldly at the Qin brothers and said, "David, you fucking." When Qin Xiaotian was angry, he was about to rush towards David. Now that Qin Xiaolin is in charge, he is no longer afraid of David. "Xiaotian!" Qin Xiaolin shouted coldly, and Qin Xiaotian stopped instantly. "Boy, there is only 1 hour left until noon, and your life is only 1 hour away. If you have any last words, hurry up and say, when you get to the ring, you will no longer have a chance to survive." Qin Xiaolin glanced at David. After speaking, he leaned back on the seat and rested with his eyes slightly closed. David also found a place to sit down and waited quietly for the time to come. At this moment, there are many people sitting in the entire stadium. These are all people from the martial arts world, and the lowest is the strength of the master. Among them, there are many people like Ye Shengu Su Chongsheng and Long Wu. However, most of them come here because of their reputation. Such life and death battles are rarely held in the martial arts world, not to mention Qin Xiaolin is a master of martial arts. Many people update to see how abnormal the strength of martial arts is. Most no one has ever seen Wuzong take action. I heard that David is only in his 20s. How could he dare to take on Qin Xiaolin's challenge at such a young age? No, isn't this an egg hitting a stone? I think this fight will last for a minute at most, and even that David can't last even a minute. How is it possible? I heard that David's strength is not weak, at least above the 5th rank of the Grand Master, so young to become the Grand Master, this is a genius. What's the use of a genius? I'm not going to die on the ring for a while. Everyone regretted for a while. Although they had never met David, it was not easy for a genius in the martial arts world. When the sun was high in the sky, the scorching sun made everyone sweat, but no one left, because the battle started immediately. In the position closest to the ring, Su Chongsheng and Yu Dong were sitting in the first row, quietly waiting for the fight to start. "Elder, do you think that David can defeat Qin Xiaolin? If he can't resist even a single move and dies tragically in Qin Xiaolin's hands, wouldn't the pill be wasted, and we don't know where he put it?" Yu Dong asked Su Chongsheng in a low voice. "Don't worry, David can't be defeated so fast, but he has no chance of winning at all. In a critical moment, I may come to the rescue," Su Chongsheng said. "Elder, if we do this, then we will offend the Qin family. If David doesn't give us the medicinal pills, then won't we lose a lot? We might as well grab it last night, anyway, we didn't. People see, do not do too endlessly. Yu Dong said fiercely. Su Chongsheng turned his head and glared at Yu Dong, without saying anything. The conversation between Su Chongsheng and Yu Dong had already been heard by Long Wu and Wu Meier, who were not far away. Although the voices of the two were very low, they were still heard by Long Wu. Uncle Long, these two guys seem to be interested in your Zisui Dan, who are they? Wu Meier asked. I didn't expect the absoluteness of David and Qin Xiaolin this time, and even the people from Medicine God Valley would be attracted. Long Wu said lightly. Yaya Shengu. Wu Meier was stunned for a moment. I heard that the guys in Yaya Shengu are arrogant and have always regarded themselves as famous and decent. Humph. Long Wu snorted coldly, in the face of absolute interests. How can there be a decent family? You forgot who picked you up and gave it to me when you were young. When Wu Meier heard this, her face changed slightly, and she said with a little sadness, Uncle Long said that Ding Buzan from the Valley of the Wicked gave me to you. Long Wu nodded. There are rumors in the world that the guys in the Valley of the Wicked are all evil, but when Ding Buzan saw you on the road, he couldn't bear to pick it up. Can you say that Ding Buzan is a villain? Wu Meier shook her head, and then said, Uncle Long, didn't you say you have the opportunity to take me to the Valley of the Wicked? I want to meet my savior. Well, let's wait until July 15th. Maybe I'll ask the guys in the Valley of the Wicked to help me. The Long family won't let David go easily. It's very difficult to just rely on me and Butler Long. It's hard to protect him well. Long Wu said, his face became more and more solemn. Uncle Long, what is the identity of this David? Why are you and Grandpa Long trying so hard to protect him? Wu Meier asked curiously. The less you know now, the better. Also, don't use your charms everywhere. If you are born with a charming physique, you will suffer if you are found out by someone with a heart. Long Wu warned. Got it. Wu Meier nodded. Just as Long Wu was talking to Wu Meier, there was a sudden commotion in the crowd. Qin Xiaolin came out. With someone shouting, everyone looked towards the arena in unison, and found that Qin Xiaolin took the lead and jumped onto the ring lightly, and behind Qin Xiaolin, followed Qin Xiaotian and the rest of the Qin family. This Qin Xiaolin has indeed reached the strength of Wuzong, it seems that it is not a blow. I am afraid that the strength of the Qin family will rise to another level. Didn't you see that all the servants of the Qin family are grandmasters, and there are even great grandmasters among them? This unremarkable person David actually provokes the behemoth of the Qin family. Isn't this courting death? Hey, I'm dying at a young age. There was a lot of discussion, but their eyes were still fixed on the ring. They knew that after Qin Xiaolin came to power, David would follow. They wanted to see what David looked like. Just after Qin Xiaolin got to the ring, David walked out of the lounge with everyone following him. With the appearance of David, the entire stadium was like a frying pan, and they all raised their necks, wanting to see more clearly. Damn it, is the youngest one in front of this David? The young man is still a first-rate talent. Isn't that Bai Xiaoshan, the patriarch of the Bai family, and Zhao Wuji, the patriarch of the Protectorate Pavilion in Kyoto? When did they meet David? It's no wonder that David dared to accept the challenge at a young age. It turns out that there are people behind him, but even if the Bai family and the Jingjing Dharma Protector Pavilion support him, Qin Xiaolin will not let him go. Everyone was surprised. David walked slowly to the ring, while the others sat under the ring, quietly waiting for the fight to start. David, do you have any last words? Just say it on this ring, I won't let you leave the ring. Looking at David who came to the stage, Qin Xiaolin said coldly. Qin Xiaolin's voice was so loud that everyone in the stadium could clearly hear it, which showed that the fight this time was endless. This sentence is also what I want to ask you. Do you have any last words? Just above the ring, tell your brother under the stage, because you can't go on. David looked at Qin Xiaolin, the green light in his eyes shone without the slightest fear. Insanity. Qin Xiaolin stepped out one step, and suddenly the entire arena trembled, and even the entire stadium could feel the tremor, and many people began to shake. Rumbling. As if the thunder sounded in the sky, Qin Xiaolin took this step, and instantly a white air wave rolled up on the ring, like a sharp sword, moving towards David. The two were separated by dozens of meters, but this air wave coming soon. With this blow, Qin Xiaolin used up all his inner strength, because he didn't want to follow David to tremble too much. After all, he is already the strength of Wuzong, as the so-called shadow of the famous tree of people. He wants to stand in front of everyone in the martial arts world. David must be killed in one hit. Looking at the scene on the arena, everyone in the audience was amazed. Many of them had never seen a master of the Wuzong realm make a move. At this moment, seeing this shocking scene with their own eyes, they were all stunned. Bang! The air waves rolled, and after reaching David, a huge explosion sounded like a grenade. The sound shook the sky, and the ears of everyone present were buzzing. David's figure was instantly buried by the smoke and dust, and the aftermath spread to the surroundings. Everyone sitting in the front row felt a strong wind blowing, and then the seats below them all shattered. However, no one was injured, and those who could sit in the front row were all experts, and would not be hurt by the aftermath, otherwise they would not have dared to sit in the front. It's over, I'm afraid this is the fastest fight I've ever seen. This David couldn't follow a single move. The move by Qin Xiaolin just now, even if it is the peak of the great master, it is difficult to resist it, right? Too strong, Wuzong's strength is really too strong. Everyone looked at the mess in the front row that was hit by the aftermath, and they thought of David on the ring, and there must be no hope. Sonia, who was under the ring, saw this scene, and tears poured out instantly. After being shocked for a while, she got up and wanted to run towards the ring, but Gulinger held her down. David, David! You can't die, you can't die! Sonia roared sternly, attracting pity from many people on the side. Bai Ziashan, Zhao Waoqi and the others all had ugly expressions on their faces, and they sweated for David in their palms. They knew David's identity, so it shouldn't be possible for them to be invincible even with a single move, right? Humph, you dare to oppose my Qin family for just these 2 times. I really don't know whether to live or die. Qin Xiaotian glanced at Bai Ziashan and the others with a proud face, and snorted coldly. Elder, is this too fast? Yu Dong looked at David, who was overwhelmed by smoke and dust on the ring, and said in surprise. Su Chongsheng frowned slightly and shook his head. I didn't expect Qin Xiaolin's strength to be so powerful, it seems that I overestimated David. Uncle Long, David he. At this moment, Wu Mei also opened her mouth slightly, her face full of surprise. She didn't expect such a result, because Long Wu hadn't had time to rescue David. Don't worry, David is fine, even if he doesn't lower that Qin Xiaolin, he can't be defeated so quickly. Long Wu had a calm expression on his face. The smoke and dust above the ring dissipated, and those with sharp eyes found that there was a figure standing in the smoke and dust. Soon, the figure became clearer and clearer, and in the end everyone saw that David was still standing on the ring, and did not fall down with the blow just now. It's just that David's clothes were tattered at the moment, and a deep groove appeared in the bronze mirror on David's chest. Seeing that David was not dead, everyone was stunned. Especially Sonia, the whole person was excited, and she cried even more. How can this be? Isn't this David the realm of the 5th grade great master? Seeing David standing on the ring intact, Su Chongsheng was surprised. He felt that it was impossible for him to misunderstand. How could David, the great master, be able to survive Wuzong's hard blow this time? What about standing on the ring? At this moment, only David himself knew that his internal organs were tumbling. Although he had just taken Qin Xiaolin's fatal blow with the help of the heart-protecting bronze mirror and his perverted body, David still suffered a lot of internal injuries. Now David is frantically running the heart condensation art, using spiritual power to heal his wounds, and a mouthful of blood from his throat is also suppressed by David, and he does not spit it out. Do you have this strength? I advise you to kowtow to me now and admit your mistake, maybe I can spare your life. David stood there, the green light in his eyes skyrocketed, and he said with a bright light. David at the moment, although his body is tattered, but in the eyes of everyone, he is like a god. How many people can resist the attack of the next Wuzong without moving? David, don't be mad, if I don't kill you today, I swear I won't be human. Qin Xiaolin saw that David was unscathed by his own hard blow, which shocked him already. He was full of confidence and started to play drums at this moment. However, when things got to this point, everyone in the martial arts world under the stage watched. Qin Xiaolin couldn't retreat, but Qin Xiaolin was angry, but he didn't dare to attack David again. The more David was like this, the more he dared not take the initiative to attack. He felt that David was deliberately angering him. And what David wants is this effect, he needs Qin Xiaolin to give him time to heal. The two stood facing each other like this, but no one was making a move. The atmosphere at the scene was suppressed to the extreme. The more it was like this, the less everyone dared to speak out. This was a duel between masters, and no one dared to cause trouble for themselves at this time. Soon, David's injury was slowly recovered under the treatment of Ning Zhenju, and the breath on his body gradually calmed down. Uncle Long, why don't they do anything? Wu Meyer seemed a little impatient, and asked Long Wu in a low voice. David is injured, he is healing, Long Wu said with a serious expression. At first glance, he saw that David was injured, but the internal injury he suffered was invisible to others. As time passed, Qin Xiaolin also seemed to have discovered something at this moment. Damn, fooled, it turns out that your kid is procrastinating. Qin Xiaolin suddenly woke up, his eyes flashed with cold light, and the whole person jumped up suddenly, like a daypen spreading his wings, and leaped directly in front of David. In mid-air, Qin Xiaolin folded his hands together, and everyone could clearly see that a vast force of heaven and earth was activated, and then merged with the energy of Qin Xiaolin's body, and finally turned into a giant hand, ruthlessly shot to David. David raised his brows, used his palm as a knife, and strode through the air with all his might. Break! I saw a cyan blade flashed past, and went abruptly towards the giant hand.